force is the product of force and perpendicular distance. Formula used for this is force multiplied by perpendicular distance. A perfect example of moment of a force is the closing and opening of the door. Now, can you listen properly?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
Hello?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Sir.
Hello, Jyoti?
yes, sir, we can listen properly.
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir, we can
Yes,
listen properly.
sir.
Echo problem is coming. Second activity is called as couple of forces. Couple of forces is the activity in which two unlike parallel forces of same magnitudes are involved. A perfect example of couple of forces is the steering. On your four-wheeler steering, two hands you are applying, one is rotating, two hands are kept, and in between that your steering is available. Perpendicular distance between these two is called as the couple arm. This couple arm is the perpendicular distance, and two unlike parallel forces of same magnitudes you are applying. Moment of a force is product of force and perpendicular distance. Force multiplied by perpendicular distance, unit is what? Unit of force is meter and unit of distance is meter. So unit of moment is Newton meter. Similarly, couple of forces is what? Any one force multiplied by perpendicular distance. So unit of force is again Newton. Unit of perpendicular distance is meter. So final unit is Newton meter. Unit of moment of a force and couple of forces always remains same. Tendency of rotation also remains the same. There are two types of moment. One is called as clockwise and anti-clockwise. Like that, there are two types of couple. One is called as a clockwise couple. Second one is called as an anti-clockwise couple. Everything remains similar. What difference is available? In case of moment, only one force is equal and other end is free, and body is rotating about one particular point. That is called as a point of rotation. In case of couple, body is supposed to be rotating about the center point, about the centroid, about the center of gravity. That is the basic difference between these two. In couple of forces, two forces are involved of same magnitude and opposite direction. Whereas in moment of a force, only one force is involved. So please remember, many similarities are there, but along with the similarity, some differences are also available. Similarities are what? Unit is same, types are also same. Rotational effect, that is clockwise, anti-clockwise, that also remains same. Final answer, numerical answer also remains same. These are the similarities. What are the similarities? What are the differences? Differences are in moment, only one force is acting, only one force. And body is supposed to be rotating about a point. Whereas in couple, two forces are acting, two unlike parallel forces of same magnitude, and body is supposed to be rotating about the center point or centroid or central point. They look for each other. Another difference which you have not seen. In case of moment of a force, if perpendicular distance or maybe force, if changes, answer always changes. Answer differs. Whereas in couple of forces, just look for that, you can take moment of these two forces about any point. In second case, these two forces 400 Newton if you are looking, you can select any point to take moment. For example, if we take moment of these two forces about A, moment of this first 400 Newton at A becomes 0 because force itself is passing through point A. There is no perpendicular distance as such. For second force, 400 multiplied by 4, tendency of rotation you have to define. 400 Newton is acting down at B. For time being, point A fixed, I am considering that AB distance will try to rotate in a clockwise direction. So 400 multiplied by 4, that is 9. And another, there are two types of moment. One is called as a clockwise moment, second one is called as anti-clockwise moment. Moment is a vector quantity. So if it is a vector quantity, always you have to consider either one is positive, automatically other becomes negative. For majority of the discussions in engineering mechanics, anti-clockwise moment is considered to be positive, whereas clockwise moment is considered to be negative. Whereas some of the authors, they are using positive sign for clockwise moment and negative sign for the anti-clockwise. That depends. But majority of the teachers, they are considering clockwise as negative and anti-clockwise as positive. So in this case, this first 400 Newton at point A when you are considering, its moment at A equals to 0. Second force 400 Newton, 400 multiplied by 4, tendency of rotation is clockwise, hence minus sign is considered. So minus 400 multiplied by 4. Answer comes as minus 1600. When minus you are considering, it indicates that it is a clockwise movement. So whenever in bracket clockwise, anti-clockwise or writing, everything is positive. Because plus and minus signs are relative signs. If one is plus, that's why second is minus. Then moment at point B. In moment at point B, we are considering moment due to force acting at point A is 400 multiplied by 4. Tendency of rotation. So what you have to do? For time being, point B you have to consider as a fixed point. With this 400 Newton, you have to rotate this body. Body starts rotating in clockwise direction. So minus 400 multiplied by 4. Force acting at point B, another 400 Newton. It passes through point B, that's why its moment equals to 0. So moment at point B is minus 400 multiplied by 4. That answer comes as minus 1600. Minus 1600, it indicates that it's a clockwise moment. So 1600 Newton clockwise. In bracket, when you are writing clockwise movement, when you are writing anti-clockwise movement, it doesn't have any positive or negative sign. It is considered to be always positive. In show point A and B, if you are considering point 2 to take moment at point 4, 400 multiplied by 2, force acting at point A, upward 400 into 2, the clockwise rotation, minus. Force acting at point B, 400 into 2, again it is clockwise, minus. So minus 400 into 2 and another minus 400 into 2. It becomes minus 160. That is nothing but 1600 Newton per point. Moment at point. First force is 400. 400 into 3. What type of rotation is? and at point P. So when you are considering rotation, just what you have to do, D point you have to consider as a fixed point, and at point A, upward force is acting. DA you have to consider as a fixed bar, and you are pushing this bar DA at point A. Then definitely body will try to rotate in anti-clockwise direction to plus 400 multiplied by 3. Next is another 400 acting at B. Total distance between D and B is 7. Is minus 400 multiplied by 7. And the answer you will get as minus 1600. So this is nothing but 1600 Newton meter long body. What it indicates? It indicates that you can select any point to take moment of these two unlike parallel forces always remains the same. There is no trouble at all. No trouble. Okay? So that also you have to. Okay. So friends, till this moment you have seen number of operations. Once again, I will revise. Number one, which you have seen, there is line of action of the force. Next, you have seen there is law of transmissibility of the force. Third, you have seen is the resolution of the force. Next is your component of your forces. After that, this law of parallelogram you have seen. After this law of parallelogram, some more operations you have seen. There is moment of a force and then coming to the real point. In this topic, what exactly we have to do? First, I told our first topic is related to finding of result. Resulting you have to find is exactly what you have to do. If 10 forces are given, this 10 you have to convert it in terms of 1. And that 1 is called as the equivalent force or maybe called as the resultant force. Meaning of 10 and meaning of 1 remains the same, please remember. That is called as finding of resultant. So we have to find out resultant means given complicated force system, you have to convert it in terms of a simple system. That here you have to take. So always our work is related to simplification. Simplification. Okay. So in simplifying this job, minimal operations you have to perform. So that's why it is called as steps involved in finding the resultant of general planar force system. This is for all. It includes concurrent, it includes parallel, it includes general, everything. Several steps are given. All steps are not required for every problem. Based on problem. For example, first step will not be required, or for some of the problems, second is not required, for some of the problem, third is not required, for some of the problem, last two are not required, and so on. In this case, just to solve the general category, which is a complicated category, what steps are involved, these steps are summarized. And sometimes what happens, some of the extra steps you have to add based on the gravity of the problem or based on the situation. Because all problems are always not straightforward problems. Some variation is available. Based on the variation, minor changes are needed. Okay? So, steps involved in finding the resultant of general coplanar force system. First step, resolve forces into X and Y component. Without saying, this is first step in pre-engineering mechanics problem. Without saying, without that work is not possible. You must have practice of resolving forces into X and Y component. But our system or our scalar system of solving numerical problem is completely based on resolved components. So first step is resolve forces into X and Y component. Second step, take the algebraic sum of forces along the x-axis. The first job what you have to do, all Indian forces, you have to convert into their X as well as Y component. After that, collect all its component. That is called as an algebraic summation. When you are calculating all its component, all are never to the right, all are never to the left, some are left, some are to the right. So what you have to do, you have to go for your own sign. If right is plus, left you have to consider minus. And that is called as the algebraic summation of forces. The second and most important step is what? Take the algebraic sum of forces along the x-axis. That is called as summation of fx, or that itself is called as the x component of the result. Next, that is the third step. Take the algebraic sum of forces along y-axis. Take the algebraic sum of forces along y-axis. It is denoted by the summation of fy, or maybe called as ry. So we have calculated algebraic sum of forces along the x-axis. We have calculated algebraic summation of forces along y-axis. Then what you have to do? Then you have to find the magnitude of resultant force. This magnitude of resultant force you have to calculate by the formula R equals to square root of summation of your x square plus summation of your y square. In that way, we will get magnitude of the resultant. The next step, find the direction of resultant force. This direction you have to calculate by using angle theta. This angle theta is angle made by the resultant force with the x-axis. That's why it is denoted by letter theta x. So, if we imagine a right angle triangle, in that angle made by hypotenuse with the x-axis is theta. So, tangent of theta equals to front side divided by adjacent side. Front side is nothing but fy, or maybe called as summation of fy. Adjacent side is nothing but fx or summation of fx. With fx equals to tan inverse summation of fy divided by summation of fy. That is called as the direction. And friends, please remember, whenever you have to find out resultant is a vector quantity. Only things you have to work out: number one, magnitude; number two, direction; and number three, its proper position. Whenever you have to define any vector quantity, you have to calculate magnitude, you have to find out its direction as well as its position. So whenever vector quantity you have to work out, you have to find out magnitude, direction as well as position. Magnitude is determined by using the formula R equals to the root of summation of fx square plus summation of your y square. Direction is defined by using formula theta equals to tan inverse summation of your phi by summation of fx. And next, the most important is the position. Position is always calculated by one theorem, and that theorem is called as a variance theorem, or will be called as the principle of moment. This principle of moment is a very famous principle or very famous theorem. Find the position of resulting force by using principle of moment, or may be called as variance theorem. What variance theorem says? For example, if there are 10 forces acting at different locations, imagine one plane sheet is given, or plane lamina is given. On that plane lamina at different locations, total 10 forces are acting. If I will consider one common point, for example, common point, name of that common point is A. The variance theorem says that The algebraic sum of moment of all component forces, rotating component forces. Algebraic sum of moment of all component forces about any point is always equals to moment of their resulting about the same. How to find out resultant etc. that we have seen. This theorem is the most important theorem. It is called as principle of moment, or maybe it is defined by scientist Varignus. That's why it is called as the Varignus theorem. Once again, I will repeat. The algebraic sum of moment of all component forces at any point is always equals to moment of the resultant about this point. Same is written in a mathematical order. Whatever is written, if you read out this, whatever just now I told, same sentence. The algebraic sum of moment of component forces at point A is always equals to moment of the resultant about the same point. Then, now look for it. Just now you were seeing theoretical glimpses. What are different operations you are seeing? Everything you are seeing. Just now you are seeing what steps are involved in solving the numerical problems. Okay? Can someone read out the steps? Omkar, Omkar Dhapte, please read out this. Hello? Hello, Omkar. Okay. Yes, please. Please read out all these things. What are these steps? Please read one by one. Okay. 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 Yes. Good. 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 Very good, sir. Very nice. Very nice. Good. So please remember these steps very meticulously. Whenever you are solving numerical problems, these steps are really very important. First step, resolve forces into the x and y components. That is the first and most important step. Take the algebraic sum of forces along the x-axis. That is summation of x, which is also called as x component of the result. Take the algebraic sum of forces along y-axis with summation of f1, which is called as y component of the result. And find the magnitude of resultant force are equals to square root of summation of f x square plus summation of f y square. Find the direction of resultant force theta equals to tan inverse summation of f y divided by summation of f x. Find the position of the resulting force by using principle of moment. It is called as Variance theorem. And this Variance theorem mathematically states that moment of resultant at A is always equals to algebraic sum of moment of component forces at point. When you are doing all these things, you have to deal with number of forces. There are different types of loading. How different types of forces are available, like a different types of loadings are available. These loadings first you have to convert it in terms of equivalent load. Equivalent is not actual, but it is similar to that. The major trouble is whatever different type of loading is available, in terms of that solution is not possible. So what you have to do? All loads you have to convert it in terms of point load. So there are three types of loading. Number one, concentrated or direct load. So whatever first sketch you are looking is F1, F2 and F3. These forces are called as concentrated or direct forces. This F1, F2 and F3, they are directly acting at a point. Directly acting. This is called as concentrated. They are concentrated at that point. Second, uniformly distributed loading or maybe called as a rectangular load. Rectangular load. In case of your house, at the top, if you are looking, you find several beams are available, horizontal beam, and on that beam the slab is resting, and beams are resting on the column. The beams are horizontal in shape. That beam is the perfect example of uniformly distributed load because that beam is resting on two pillars or two columns. The loading which is coming from the beam is the perfect example of uniformly distributed load, or this beam looks to be rectangle. That's why it is called as rectangular loading also. In case of uniformly distributed loading, load is uniformly distributed throughout the length, and one example is given here 10 kilonewton per meter. Because that is on 1 meter it is 10 kilonewton. Total length is what? 4 meter. So for 1 meter there is a 10 kilometer. But for 4 meter, how much? So 10 multiplied by 4, it equals to 40. So this is 40 kilonewton. 40 kilonewton is not real load. It is equivalent to load. Equivalent load. So all these different type of loads, first you have to convert it in terms of the concentrated or direct load. And these loads are called as a synonymous load, similar load. In reality, that is uniform distributed. But solution of the problem is not possible with that. So what we are doing, we are converting it in terms of concentrated load. Third one is uniformly varying load. Uniformly varying load is divided into two parts. One is called as a triangular load. Second one is called as a trapezoidal load. In case of rectangular load, intensity of the load throughout the length remains constant. Whereas in case of varying load, intensity of the load doesn't remains constant. At one end it may be zero, at other end it may be maximum. Or in case of trapezoidal, what happens? At one end some amount is available, whereas at other end some different amount is available. Okay, students, so this is three now. Just do one thing. For next lecture, when you are coming, please go through this discussion. Take one of the textbook. What are different type of loads? How they are converted in terms of concentrated? What are different types of forces? Types of loading? What steps are involved in solving these? How to find out resultant? Just some of the problems you go through because everyone may face this difficulty because of online. because in online exact 100% understanding may not be possible. Okay, so how you are having constraint, like that we are also having equally a similar type of constraint. Okay, so still from my side, I'm trying to explain each and everything, and whenever your offline classes will start, all these details once again in short can be explained to them. Okay. So I think for today's lesson, it conclude. Okay. Hello. बंद करायचं ना?
Attendance, sir.
Attendance